Hello, welcome to Retro Cheese Review, where generally I force my friends and loved one family to watch old retro movies that most people find terrible that I enjoy and review them. Today will be a little bit different. I'll be doing the rant of a movie that I absolutely hate, actually a TV show slash movie. Um, just kind of trying something a little different. I'm bored, and most of my friends are busy right now. So I'll be going on a rant of something in media that most people love, but I absolutely hate. So what we'll be going through today is the worst anime ever made, Evangelion. And I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate. Oh, people love Evangelion. People love Evangelion. Well, the first thing that I want to point out is fuck Evangelion. So what I'd like to say is most people love this show because they are so full of themselves and up their own ass that they like this show, because really this show is the Wes Anderson or even Quentin Tarantino of animes. Basically, it starts off really strong, but then it just becomes essentially writer masturbation. I think I had a theater professor back in college that would refer to certain certain writers as essentially masturbating on stage. And really, that's what this is. This entire anime is the writer, the creator of the anime, going to themselves, how fucking creative can I be? How fucking smart am I? How many twists can I put in? So, really, what it is masturbation. So, the first thing that I'm going to point out here is the Rotten Tomatoes score. So, the Rotten Tomatoes score here says 100% critic score. All of those critics can go fuck themselves because this anime is awful. And an 88% audience score, which says to me that 88% of people want to look like they're smart, so they don't want to admit they don't know what the fuck's going on with Evangelion. Because nobody knows the plot of the show. Nobody knows what the fuck's going on with it. It's again the same as like Wes Anderson movies. You guys will probably disagree with me, but all of them are fucking terrible. And almost every Quentin Tarantino movie, um, this is just a TV show that just wants to be intelligent but isn't. It's written by a dumbass that thinks that he's smart. So, getting into that, the greatest thing that this anime does is the opening. Don't want to, go too much into it, but like the opening's great. So it sets you up thinking this is going to be a fucking awesome anime because, diving into this opening, like let's, take a little bit of a clip, here. You've got like one of the best openings ever. Just listen to that shit. I'm gonna crank that shit up, I mean, look at this. Fast forward a little bit here, it's like, great fucking beat. It's setting you up that this is gonna be some fucking awesome robot battles to great anime music, Look at that. Look at how fucking badass that is. That is just a really fucking cool robot action fight. Great animation, great music, things like that. And then it's just all downhill from there. So you're starting off with one of the greatest openings in anime history, and then you actually dive into the plot of this show. And the plot of this show is essentially you have a child that his father is using essentially a grown woman to offer sex to this child to get him to save the world. It gets even weirder. The kid has to pilot an Eva. You find out the Eva aren't giant robots. They're essentially like, angels that they've captured, and there's angels coming to destroy the world, but the angels are aliens, but one of the angels is secretly his mom. But one of the Eva pilots is also a clone of his mom, but she's a kid, and there's some weird sexual tension there. A lot of pedo vibes in this show, frankly. And the show gets weirder and weirder. There's a lot of great combat in the show. Like, the animation is beautiful, again. The music is gorgeous. The robot combat is cool. But then you just get into the plot, and it just fucking sucks. It gets really pedo-y. The woman that this guy's, the head of the Eva program, his son, the woman who's like, taking him into the house is like, basically offering the kid like, hey, I'm gonna do sexual favors for you if you're willing to pilot. The kid gets injured. Other kids, get injured regularly. There's this arrogant girl who I think is supposed to be from like Germany. She's there. Someone at one point, one of the Eva pilots, ends up in a coma, and Shinji, the main character, like masturbates to her in a coma. Literally, it shows this. It's freaking disgusting. And then the kid's just like, I'm so fucked up. Um, Great memeing material, but not necessarily good plot. Um, so essentially, this show writes itself into a corner, to where it doesn't know what the fuck it wants to be. The main protagonist Shinji doesn't want to do any of this. They convince him to finally get in the fucking robot and just keep fighting. There's even a line, "Get in the fucking robot, Shinji." And he's going around being a badass, killing all these angels that are supposed to end the world. But then you find out like that, like, the world government that's like funding the Eva program isn't even trying to save the world. They're trying to merge everyone into like this one human project. I don't even know, because frankly, this show gave me a migraine. Honestly, the best take on it, if you really want to know the plot of Evangelion, but you don't want to take the time and go through the bottles of Excedrin that most people need to really understand the plot, watch the final episode of season 1 of Pop Team Epic, and that goes through so much better the plot of Evangelion than the show ever could. Personally, I think so. So, like, we get into this whole thing of everyone's going to merge together, only one human can survive, and they throw all these angels at them, and you can tell that the finale was like rushed, because there's literally like artistic, like, people reacting in the theater. It gets so full of its own self that it's showing like old like war clips, people reacting to the opening in the theater, and then it just ends with Shinji the kid and this redhead kid who is a girl that Shinji was like obsessed with, who's kind of a bitch. They're the only ones left alive, and instead of celebrating or anything like that they won, it literally ends with like Shinji having like a psychotic break, and he like chokes her to death, like, literally. So he's like choking her to death, like, "Yay, we won. Now I'm gonna choke you to death, you bitch." So that's how it ends. So we're getting some really weird vibes. I think honestly the creator had a lot of issues with his own mother, frankly. Oh, and I've still got that audio playing. I've got to cut that out. So I think that the creator honestly had a lot of issues with his own mother, a lot of mental issues. And here's the worst part. So the show comes out in like 1992. They do the final episode, and then everyone who even loved the show hates the final episodes. So a couple years later, he claims that like it was funding, he was rushed, and they fund a movie called The End of Evangelion. And it's even worse. He's just trying to get a redo. And then they do it again, and then again, and then again. And there has been 5 fucking movies for this show trying to fix the ending, and all of them continuously get worse. They just keep getting worse every time that they reboot the movie. And it's not like normal anime where the movie is a retelling of a story or anything. It's the creator just trying to justify like why this show exists, and he's trying to be like, "I need, you give me the money and the time and I'll have a great, ending." So really going back, like, I was a huge anime nerd as a kid, still a big anime nerd. I liked kind of trash anime growing up. I and good anime. I was way too fucking obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. Loved me some Trigun. Loved Full Metal Alchemist. Now that I'm a full grown adult, huge fan of Attack on Titan. Was a huge fan of Gundam Wing as a kid, and rewatching that, I realized the recycled anime and everything, or animation, it's not that great. I'm a big fan of like My Hero, all of those. Looking back as a kid, I was like, okay, the opening is really cool. These robot scenes are really cool. But then when I started watching it, I'm like, well, this fucking sucks, though. And as it got to the ending, it was the most disappointing ending ever. And I followed it all the way through. And when fan bases talk about great shows, or just shows starting out great and having really disappointing ending, like the biggest one that comes to mind for a lot of people is Game of Thrones. Season 7 was not great. This would be way worse. So for those of you who aren't anime fans, imagine a show like as great as like Game of Thrones, literally just ending, instead of like Jon Snow, spoiler alert, killing Daenerys, it just ends with like Jon Snow single-handedly killing all the White Walkers and then just jacking off on the corpse of, Daenerys. That would be the ending of Evangelion, frankly, of how bad it was. So giving this a nostalgia rating, I would have to give it first, the first season, I would have, as a kid, in the nostalgia rating, I would have given this like a 4 out of 5. I'm going to give this a serious rating as a kid. Like the first season, I would have given a 4 out of 5. I'd be like, this isn't neat Dragon Ball Z because it doesn't have Goku, but them anime fights. But then I would have, even as a kid, given the final season, or sorry, not final season, final couple episodes, I would have probably given like a 2 out of 5 as a kid. Rewatching this anime, which I've forced myself to do very recently, I would give the opening still maybe like a 3 out of 5. And the final, I would give like a negative 10 out of 5. One of the worst things I've ever subjected myself to watching. So, the last thing that I just have to end with is, if you like this anime, normally I would say with most of these shows, like what you like. I like a lot of trash, but I just have to say, go to hell, you're wrong. The anime is terrible. Please put hate in the comments telling me why you like this, and I'll argue with you and give you good things to watch. And you don't have to like everything. We don't have to hate everything. But just looking back at this, the biggest problem with this, anime again, just comes down to the fact that the person writing it just had a lot of fucking issues and thought he was smarter than he was. Well, that is my rant for today. Like and subscribe. And give us some suggestions in the comments of any other videos you'd like to see. Thank you. Bye.